to the Feeding Our Young podcast. Have you ever heard the phrase, nurses eat their young? It's not a very nice thing to be known for. But Eric, our amazing host, has decided to challenge that narrative, so to speak. And so welcome to this Feeding Our Young podcast. He has flipped the script and thought, let's not eat them, let's feed them. And his mission, which I so love, is to uplift our young, our nurses, and help them along the way of what sometimes can be a challenging career. Eric has been a registered nurse for about 20 years, and he is a clinical adjunct instructor. Today, I'm your honored guest. My name is Jennifer Evans, and prepared to be uplifted so you can in turn uplift others.
All right, welcome back to part 2 of Jennifer, not Jenny, Lecturer Evans, whatever you want to call her today. I'm going to call her Jen in the second episode, kicking myself the entire time that I had the obvious right in front of me, and it was like I feel like it falls under like the dad joke thing. It's kind of like that thing. I feel like I've let myself down, talk about being a perfectionist, so I will never make that mistake again. Also, I want to thank you, Jen, for allowing me to sit here with you and to talk with you about these things, especially since I'm only a recent convert to the iPhone. You talked about that in the first episode. I had to share this story because...
Well, Eric, I would not have been able to do it had you still had an Android, okay? That's a hard line for me, and...
Not the green,
okay now.
Not the green bubble guy. And to make it clear, here at Feeding Our Young, we accept all manners of, smartphone users, whether you're Android or Apple, because I'm bilingual in that way and very fluent in both. But it really was hilarious. There's 4 of us kind of in the OB department that work closely together, and you've already heard from Tara, and now you've heard from Jen, and you will eventually hear from Nicole, if that gal can ever get not busy enough to get in studio. But that's really how it is for all of us. And I'll never forget the 4 of us are sitting there, and the 3 of them have iPhones. And mind you, when I first became, so I've only had a cell phone really for 2 years, give or take 2.5, when I first became an educator, because I needed it to contact my students. And
Go back. You didn't have a cell phone before you became an educator? What, did you have a landline? What?
Yes, and in fact, we only gave up our landline within the last year, after having it for 24 years. But
I love that so much.
I get students that are like, but Eric, how did your wife, get a hold of you? And I'm like, well, she knew that, you know what I mean? I'll get home, or she'd call me at home or leave a message or whatever. Straight up old cantankerous old man, right? And so people, it just still blows their minds away. But I can't tell you how often in public where someone's like, well, okay, well, if you just want to, do you want to download the app? And I'm like, well, I don't have a cell phone. And the looks I would get, I was beamed down from another planet, and there's the callback. And, but more often than not, after the initial shock wore off, people would be like, I'm actually kind of envious. And because it's an electronic leash. I'm not going to get on my soapbox. That's not why we're here. But the whole point of it is that there's the 4 of us, I'll never forget, sitting at that table, and the 3 of them have iPhones, and I've got my Android. And they're like, oh, Eric. Oh, you're an Android user. And I'm like, what? What is this a thing? And this is where I found out that there's an actual culture behind this whole thing. And it's just I can't even believe it. And so my response was, one of these things is not like the others. And it's not because I was the only male nurse. So anyway, it's good to be ostracized on account of my cell phone, not on my gender. Moving along, because this episode is not about me. Jennifer, let's just dive right in after... You can't dive right in after me blabbering for 3 minutes about cell phones. But a couple of nice little intro lob questions about yourself that we didn't get to learn. Have you traveled anywhere outside the country? If so, where? And where is your favorite destination?
Yes. I want to go to Europe. I say with my husband all the time, we are taking a big trip when all the kids are graduated and, at that next stage of life. I have been to London, and Wales, which was amazing. They are the happiest people London, maybe not the happiest people. They walk really fast, which I was like 5 months pregnant at the time with my third kiddo. He likes to tout that he's also been to London. But that was great. Went over to...
He's really there seeing the sights, right? He really got a good...
No, I've been there. And I'm like, oh, yes. All right. Yes, you have. Yeah. And then, so that was like a trip to go see my sister and her husband. My husband and I went on that. It was great. Been to Cancun a couple times. My husband and I actually just booked a trip back to Cancun for January between semesters.
What?
That was a whole thing, like getting used to, I can't take vacation in, February. I'm just going with my semester. So, we're so excited, and we're staying at this all-inclusive, and I am not an adventurer on vacation. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
I am a relaxer, and my husband is a little bit more of an adventurer, but, life is so crazy right now. I think we're both just looking forward to like nothing. So, yes, Cancun, London, Canada. But,
everybody just says that we live in Washington. Everybody's like, we've all been to Canada. It's right up there.
Like a 3 or 4 hour drive.
Yeah, it's not far.
It's in the backyard, front yard, whatever. Yeah.
We're not going to ask them whether we're in their backyard or they're in ours. We'll just leave that where that is. No, and I'm actually kind of surprised that with those few weeks off in between fall and spring semesters that you're not going to just go get a doctorate degree or something. So kudos to you.
Never. I'm saying never.
Yeah.
Don't tell Chris Sloan, but never.
Yeah, no, I won't. That'll be our little secret. Definitely, that won't make the episode at all. And also, I mean, I do recall someone saying they would never get a master's degree. So we're gonna leave that one right there, and just say, So here's the other side. So flip side, behind the curtain of the whole podcast. As you already know, I give these prep sheets to people, give them ideas of things to talk about, and I always, when I'm prepping someone before we record, I say, well, don't treat it like a script. It's there for reference to remember the things that you wanted to talk about, but don't read it out loud because don't read it verbatim because then that seems stilted and not natural and all things. But do us a favor, Jen, and that same question. What was your first sentence response? Because I love how you phrased that.
Oh, okay. I said my favorite destination is anywhere with a pool and no responsibility.
Done. Put it on a shirt. There's Jen's t-shirt that we're done. I really feel like we got to do like t-shirts based on honored guests. This is not the first time this theme has come up, so maybe that's something down the road.
I love it.
So continue with this theme. We'll ask one more, easy lobbed up, more about you question, and please read verbatim the first sentence you said, and it is the next question that follows. What are the hobbies, interests you enjoy when every waking moment isn't consumed by nursing school?
I said I don't understand the question. Like, what? What are you even talking about, Eric?
What are you saying? Is this a different language?
Well, especially like from being a nursing student, it's fairly all encompassing. Like that is mostly your life during the times when you're in the semester. And as a new educator, I feel like teaching is a gifting of mine. Not perfect, but it comes naturally to me to explain things to people and to encourage people to learn. But I was not prepared for what it is to step into a full-time educator role.
Yeah.
I'm the new girl.
Yeah.
It's horrible being the new girl. It's really hard, you guys. I was like, I'm never going to leave my unit, right? Like, I'm going to stay here forever. I'm going to retire from here. And because I don't want to be the new girl anywhere. And then I'm the new girl here. So, everything went out the window for a bit. But I've read some novels this summer, not this book. I've read some books, some novels, some teaching books. Which I so miss because I love books.
Yeah. Any recommendations off the cuff for anyone?
Oh, yes. Something about the life of an octopus.
Hmm.
Snapdragon. I'm trying not to swear so much, and my sister says Snapdragon, so a little shout out to my
Ooh.
sister there.
I wonder if I have to. I probably still have to click the explicit box because it's
Yeah, filter that out.
Snapdragon. I can't even believe it.
I found when trying to replace curse words, when you need something, you're like trying to be,
Mm-hmm.
you need enough syllables,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I have a sweet friend who just doesn't swear ever, and she says fetch. And so sometimes I'm like, okay, I gotta remember. I gotta be like Beth. Say fetch.
Well,
yes,
and
that's good.
That's in my brain somewhere, rattling around in there. I'm picturing Will Ferrell doing that in a movie or two, where he's just, I want to say Anchorman, but maybe not. I mean, that's a rated R movie to begin with, but I feel like there's somewhere where he's, or maybe it's just Elf. I don't know, where he's just swearing using, non-swear words. But anyway,
Yes.
We digress. Yeah. So any off-the-cuff recommendations? Yeah.
Yes, it's called Remarkably Bright Creatures.
Ooh.
It's told in the perspective of a few different people or beings, one of which is an octopus. Which I was like, that's weird. I don't want to know. Great reviews. I always look at like how many stars something is.
Yeah.
And one of the reviews was like, I love this narrator, and I will read or listen to, rather, because I'm an audiobook geek. Listen to anything that they narrate. And so I was like, I'll give it a try. Holy cow, it was so good.
All right. I've got to add it to the queue.
Yep.
When I'm not
Absolutely.
recording or working my other two jobs, I will throw that in there somewhere.
Eric, audiobooks on your marathon little run. Not little, huge runs.
Touche.
There you go.
That is probably the best
Multitasking.
thing. Well, and that I love, oh my gosh. And that's, my wife and I have this discussion because I think as of today, this recording, she still hasn't listened to a single episode of the podcast. My wife is the most supportive person on the whole planet. And she's like, but babe, A, I personally think she just hears enough of me. But B, and she doesn't say that, but B, I think where it is for, she's like, babe, I don't like talk. I don't like talk radio. I don't like this, anything that's talking. So for her, like, I don't, and for me, when I'm running, like I would listen to, do I even go there? One time I nerded out. I violated 1,000 laws and recorded in MP3 format one of my top 5 movies of all time. What About Bob? Have you? Yeah, so there we are. What About
Baby
Bob?
steps.
Oh,
Baby
baby steps to the elevator. Anyway, it's Bill Murray at his comedic best. I've talked about it maybe once or twice before. Don't want to bore anybody with that. Against a very straight-faced Richard Dreyfuss. Oh, check it out. What About Bob? Anyway, I recorded it on MP3 and then took that movie, put it on my MP3 player, and this, prior to Spotify and whatnot. And I listened to that for a whole run. And, because it takes me, 2 hours to run a half marathon. And so it was perfect. And when you can mentally, like, half of running's physical, but the other half is the mental part. And when you can check out, I would even go so far as to listen to, if I knew that movie was, say, an hour and a half, I would listen to music for the first half hour and then dial into the movie. Because then that covers me for the rest of that run, the most difficult portion of that run near the end, and I can just check into the fantasy world that is What About Bob and the most amazing comedic thing ever. And then that kind of tunes the brain receptors out to everywhere else of my body that's screaming, you need to be done. So,
that's
again,
pretty brilliant. Okay, that's pretty brilliant. I'm
going to listen to that book. You've heard it here first. I'm definitely going to listen to that. It's going to be a while before I run again, doing back-to-backers, not doing that again. So was there anything else you wanted to share as far as hobbies, interests, etc.?
No, I love to ski. Nice. We always, I grew up skiing, and my husband grew up snowboarding. We got back into it, oh my gosh, I don't know how long ago, 7 years ago with our kids.
Okay.
Good night. That's an expensive hobby.
Mm-hmm.
We did not go once last year. We're season pass people. We always get a season pass. We always go enough times to make it worth it. And we did not go once next year. And then I was angry about it. And I was like, I'm not going at all. I'm fine. I'm not doing it.
Done.
But we're we figured out, ways to work around this new schedule in this role that I have now. And so I'm so excited. We've got some Wednesdays booked out where
Nice.
we're going to just hit the slopes. And I love skiing so much. It's so much fun.
That's awesome. That is awesome. See, skiing to you is running to me. There it is.
There you go.
Except it's opposite because I don't run in the winter unless it's a mild winter. I'm a fair weathered runner and I don't mind proclaiming it. So let's get into some more serious things here. The meat of the matter. Why people are coming to this. They don't need us to prattle on about our lives, but it's equally important because I feel like you get to know a little bit about our honored guest, and it's just so much fun. So. Let's just go with the next easiest question, which is, do you care to share about any challenges you've had in life? See? Easy. No big deal.
Oh, just that.
Yeah, just that.
This question was another one that I kind of really had to think about. And I was having a really crap day when I was looking through this. And it was, I think I texted you. I was like, thank you so much for this perspective shift. Yeah. Because I got weighed down in all the minutia, right? The stuff that you think is really big and important in the big picture, none of that stuff is actually what's important.
Right.
And so when talking about challenges, it's the biggest challenges are the loss of life and relationships. I've lost both of my grandparents in the past 3 years. Lost, patience, lost, friendships that are, you're in a different place in your life. And it's hard. Right now, raising adultish children is hard.
Oh, yeah.
Navigating, how do I, it's not wiping noses and bottoms anymore, right? It's helping somebody navigate their own life in a way that's not stepping on toes or telling them what to do, or it's just this. I feel like is not in the parenting books, or I'm not reading the right books, or something.
No, that whole part of the manual is missing, just like the whole part that came before it. It's just missing.
Yes. One of the biggest challenges, well, not biggest, but one of the most recent challenges was actually in adapting to this role of full-time educator. It was so like drinking out of a fire hose that a year ago, this time last year. And I don't think I knew enough. I kind of had some rose-colored glasses on. I don't know that I knew enough to anticipate how hard it would be. But I felt this like angsty feeling creeping back up on me as I'm getting ready for this semester. Okay. I'm like, Jen, you've done this, right? Like you're teaching the same classes. You most of these students I will be teaching again, which I'm so excited that I get repeat students. Like,
so awesome.
So excited.
Yeah.
And I couldn't really identify what that angst was. And I think that it came from how hard last semester, or my first semester was this time last year, which I navigated and survived and all of that. But then, Eric, what you and I had kind of touched on, I think off microphone, not off camera, off microphone.
Yeah.
Was I was kind of rocked by some evaluations that I got at the end of spring semester. I think it was really one in particular that just, you and me and Tara and Nicole were sitting down to dinner, and this is why I love being real with people in community, is I had been struggling with things that a student had said about me that was not reflective in how I teach. That's the whole point of the course evaluation, right? Is like, what do they do to help you learn? What do they do that didn't help you learn? Those kinds of questions. Yeah. And I'm sitting here quietly struggling with like heartbreak, and then was brave enough to share it. And then I have another coworker who also was like flayed open in an evaluation, and it was so sweet to just know that I'm not alone in that, that like somebody else is facing the struggle I am. And I think I had this sense of dread about, what if I get another evaluation like that?
Yeah.
And most of my evaluations were good. And most of my shortcomings I've already addressed with my students. Like, we've talked about it. I asked for feedback all throughout the course. But this felt more like a personal attack. Even after coaching, like, you guys, an evaluation is not character assassination, right?
Yeah.
It's how can I help you learn better? That's what we're looking for. Where objectives not clear. You know, I tried an idea of this concept map with my students, and they were like, oh my God, that was so confusing. Like, I could see maybe it would be good, but it really threw me for a loop.
It did not work. Did not work.
Right.
But
that's the feedback I'm so hungry for, because I don't want to keep doing something that's not helpful.
Yeah.
But I guess, you know, in this podcast, the idea of feeding our young and building them up and training and teaching them in the way that, you know, that's like a parenting thing too, that they would go, is in this day and age, and I don't even think it's about age, but it's the world we live in now. People can hide behind their keyboard. You know, this keyboard warrior sort of designation, where you have the boldness to say something that you would never say to somebody's face.
Yeah.
And so I guess as an instructor, having been on the flip side of that, that was hard. That was really, like, for a second, I was like, I'm done. I'm out. I'm not going back.
Yeah. Yeah.
I signed my contract, but I can unsign it.
Erasable pen.
Feign death, I don't know. But no, I came to my senses. But I would encourage students to remember that I am just a human being.
Yeah.
Right? I don't have all the answers. I wish. Wouldn't that be lovely? I don't always say the right thing in the perfect way. I make mistakes.
I'm sorry. What could you? I need to write that down. What'd you say again?
I make mistakes.
How do you spell M-I-S-T?
Capital M.
Oh, capital M. Capital M. That's right.
Yes. But you know, going back, I think, to what we said, I guess it'd be in the first episode, of like that idea of grace.
Yeah.
And, you know, nobody knows what another person is going through if they don't share it. And so always have that. And this is a learning thing. I mean, so I'm 44 and I'm really starting to come into my own on this of giving people the benefit of the doubt, right? There's something in the lab here at Gonzaga, and I always muck it up when I try to say it, but it's a whole thing, but it's something about assuming positive intent. You know, if a student emails me and they're like coming across as really frustrated and this isn't, how could this be? And I try to assume positive intent. They're having a hard day. They're navigating the world just like I am. Let's give it a second. And how can I respond in a way that validates their frustration, but also guides them to a solution and not just, you know, griping. Not that I get a lot of those emails.
Yeah.
Speaking of email, our friend Nicole said yesterday she has a 24-hour rule of, you know, when you feel like you're going to keyboard warrior it, and you're saying what you want to say, don't hit send. Wait for 24 hours. I took her advice. And it's really good advice.
Yeah.
So I want to give her credit for that. But I just, like, this morning sent an email that I had drafted yesterday.
Yeah.
And I was like, let me reread it with, you know, less emotion and fresh eyes. And not that there's always time necessarily for that, but we are all just humans.
Yeah. And I love that. Thank you for being vulnerable with that too. And in a way that doesn't come across, at least to me, and I imagine everybody else, but it doesn't sound like you're being defensive. You know, it's not like, well, this person said that, and this is why I'm not that. And you know what I mean? Because we get caught up in that too. And I think that's part of it. It's the reactionary versus the response. Are you going to react, or are you going to respond? And it's very difficult, even from a male perspective. And we've already established my lack of testosterone on this podcast, but it's very difficult from a male perspective, female, it doesn't matter who you are, to unplug from those emotions in the moment. And how many times have people said, you know, this horrible thing happened in the heat of the moment? somebody does something that maybe is out of character for them or something like that. The other thing that while you're talking, my brain kind of, and it was kind of an interesting flip. Go back, anyone who's listening to this, if you haven't listened to episodes 11 and 12, which are actually releasing this Wednesday, which would be tomorrow, actually. Sue Perkins, she's a recently retired nurse educator in the community, absolutely amazing. And she talks about this very thing about, just wanting to, go store. She goes, one time I picked up my stuff, I wrote this thing out, and I stomped my way down the hall to go talk to he sent me this email, and I was not happy, and I was going to let him what for, and students are in the hall, and she goes, I'm not like that. And anyone who knows her knows she's not. But she says, I'm not like that. And these students watched me go storming out of my office down the hall. She says, she stopped for a minute before going all the way to the office, and she's like, okay, Sue, and I'm not doing it justice, but she's okay. I need to, no, this is not the time to be doing this. Turns around, walks back in a natural down the hall, waves to the students, hi guys, goes back to her office and closes the door. And it's just that thought of, even if you're this close to, doing whatever, but all of this feeds into this idea. I just had this flip thought where it's like, we're talking about feeding our young. We don't want tenured nurses to eat you up. We don't want we want to change the culture of nursing students' careers ending before they have a chance to start or right after they've started. And but it all takes mutual respect, and that's what Sue had mentioned in the thing, is communicating with respect, with a professional air to it. And if you flip it around, don't eat your old. Sorry, Jen. You did say you're 44,
right.
Which is weird because I thought you were in your early 30s like me. But whatever, it's 44 is fine. I'll have to know what that feels like. But the point is it's don't eat your old. You know what I mean? There needs to be that mutual give and take. We're doing our darndest for you, and I hope, if nothing else, up to this point, anyone who's heard her say this, you've got to know the person that is Jen. And you've got to know that, man, she is passionate about taking care of nurses. And our peers, people who are doing this and who genuinely care about their students, man, we're trying our best. We are trying our best. And by golly, let me know what I can do better for you next time. I always ask my students that in evals, because like you said, I want to do better for the next group behind you. Let me know who that is. Let me know what I can do to make that happen. So thank you for being open on that topic. With that, you mentioned those specific challenges inherent to just drinking from the fire hose per se in your new job a year ago, and also the loss of relationships. How do you navigate those challenges? I used to say overcome, and it could be and or overcome, but how do you deal with those? How do you navigate those? How do you overcome some of them?
So in this process of learning to do things better than I've done them before, because that's the definition of insanity, right? Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting this different result. Mm-hmm. Well, I do cry. I'm quite a crier. So I'm quite an emotional being. I cry, I complain, and then I'm like, I'm going to fix it, right? I get into fix it mode. Mm-hmm. And then somewhere along the way, I'm like, oh, I should pray about this. And it always helps, even if nothing changes. Yeah. And I'm working on changing that order up a little bit, because I should really be starting with praying. I'm still on the journey, right? We never arrive, right? Yeah. We're always growing and learning. And the other thing that helps me, which I almost didn't even put in here because I kind of forgot about it, is that I write. I have the ability to put my feelings on paper or screen, text, whatever. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it's something that has really helped me process some losses. I wrote about my grandma's passing. I wrote about, without violating HIPAA, which is very important, mm-hmm. About an experience with a patient who I cared for, and we emergently delivered her baby, and that kiddo didn't make it. And that rocked me. Yeah. Like, still gets me. Yeah. And I mean, I think I was up till like 2 or 3 in the morning. I had to process it. I had to get it out. And I worked the next day. So I was like, but to be able to go back, and I was so blessed to care for this sweet mama again the next day. And that is something that absolutely helps me. I teach growth and development here, and we end our semester kind of wrapping up a life, right? Death and dying.
Mm-hmm.
None of us get out of this alive. Mm-hmm. And we were supposed to have some guest speakers, and that didn't pan out. And so I said, what am I going to do for this class, right? And I read them 2 of my journal entries. One is a perspective of the family member, and one is a perspective of the nurse. And I was not prepared for, like, I know these stories. I've read them and to over and over and over again.
Yeah.
But Eric, I cried so much. I didn't even bring tissues. I thought, I'll be fine. This is just going to be fine. I finally looked at a student and I was like, does anybody have tissue? I can't see the paper.
Yeah.
And that, oh my gosh, that took it out of me. I was like so zapped. I don't know if anybody on this podcast listening is a Potterhead. We love Harry Potter in my family, but it felt like when that Dementor goes after Harry Potter the first time and it zaps all of his energy, I was like, I need chocolate.
Yep. Yeah.
But as hard as that was, and I don't do it for the feedback, but I had students that let me know that was so impactful for them.
Yeah.
To have somebody that this is real, right?
Yeah.
And so it's okay to cry with your patient. It's okay to need to take a step back. It's okay to feel whatever you're feeling in these moments, and that we're all going to have these moments, whether you're a nurse or not. You're going to have these moments in life. Yeah.
Thank you for that. I feel like that more than anything with everyone that I get to talk with, like if we can't take anything else, but just learn, okay, I see this person has challenges too. That's crazy. Because sometimes we get lost in these heroes that you look up to, whether it's, an educator for yourself or someone that's coming in to work positive every day. I try to be that guy, and I make no qualms about it, even at work when I'm having a bad day. Like it's life. Life happens. But so to be able to learn from one another, how do we deal with these challenges? How does this person deal? How does this person deal? How do you, and what I haven't gotten yet is, Eric, I stuff them deep down inside and then they go away and I never have to deal with them again. And life is amazing. I haven't heard that once. So I'm excited for the first time that's going to happen. That'll be an episode and a half all by itself.
Well, I'll be sure to listen for those answers. How to make that
I'll let you know. Yeah, I'll let you know. That's it. So in the meantime, I thank you for being vulnerable as far as that goes. Let's talk about nursing school, and let's talk about it first of all from your perspective. I don't even know if we have time to go from the other perspective, but at the very minimum, as an instructor, as a lecturer, but even as an adjunct clinical instructor prior to that, what do you love most about nursing and nursing school?
That I don't know if I can answer that well without getting to my 3 words.
Intriguing. Okay, then let's do this. We're pivoting on the spot. Ladies and gentlemen, we are pivoting on the spot. So, from a perspective of a nursing student, go back, because I know, and we've talked about this, all of it. Okay. Any nurse, you say nursing school, and you automatically, I was just talking to Sarah, actually, Morash, about that yesterday. We were saying, like, when you talk about nursing school, and you remember as a nurse, you automatically go to the good and the bad. I said the good and the bad, and she's like, yeah, but it's the bad that comes up first. Like those bad memories, those, that sort of thing. So take us to BSN student Jen. Mm-hmm. What was nursing school like for you? What did you like about it? If you recall, what did you find most challenging? Open up that door for us a little bit, and then we'll circle back around to you as an instructor and overlap that with your three closing words.
So I've discovered that I have a horrible memory, actually. And so I don't have a ton of very strong. I remember being busy. I have multiple memories of sitting in my living room with this amazing group of fellow nursing students. We got this really, really tight group of us.
I'm going to interrupt you. I'm interrupting you. I'm going to be rude. This is Jennifer speak, everyone, for it was so traumatic, she put it out of her mind. It was beat clear out of her soul. All right. Anyway, moving forward.
I remember like studying.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like just getting together and going over, I mean, we did not have the technology that exists today. It's not like we didn't have computers, but it's not the same. Poring over textbooks and making flashcards and quizzing each other. And there's so much of that. I remember being terrified for my first day of med-surg clinical.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't my first day. That 9/11, like the 9/11 was my first day of med-surg clinical. Like, I watched a tower fall. I lived very close to the hospital. I drove to the hospital. I watched the other tower fall.
Oh.
And I was like, you guys, I had a med error on my first day of like in the hospital nursing school. And I shared this with my students. I mean, it was a stool softener that I gave at 7 a.m. instead of 7 p.m. I didn't kill the patient, but that is a med error. That is the wrong time.
Yeah.
And I was absolutely like crying about this. And the nurse that was with me was so sweet. And she's like, that is not really a med error. And I was like, yes, it is. It's the wrong time.
I violated the 5 rights. I violated them. I'm a violator.
And so that is one of those things that like stands out to me, that like this is really important, and we have to be mindful of what our surroundings are. And when you're giving medications, you gotta shut that out and focus on the task at hand. I'm so thankful I did not harm my patient. He probably had a great bowel movement. But that was that kind of thing. But I had this amazing clinical instructor, Jerry Goss. And I have no idea what's happened to her. She is forever in my memory of like putting your first Foley catheter in. I was terrified. And she knew it. And so she like literally drags me into this room. And it's this sweet older gal who is like a bilateral below the knee amputee with arthritic hips. And I'm like, am I like, this is going to be really hard. Jerry, in her infinite wisdom, brought a second catheter. We do our best. It doesn't always go exactly where you want it to, especially when you're nervous and new and shaky. But she was so confident in me that like, no, you can do this. It's not going to, maybe you have to do it twice, but you can do this. That is one of my like core memories, right? As like a nursing student. I remember we had to take this, what was it, like medical ethics? And it was taught, I hated this class, which is a horrible thing to say. It was just like dry and boring and everything I don't want any of my classes to be. But we would always fight so hard to get into like the satellite classroom where the teacher couldn't actually call on you because like that was where to be, was in the satellite classroom, not like the main auditorium kind of room. I remember that I had fun because I had found this core group they were my people, they knew what I was living through. They were going through it too. So yeah, those are my, it was, I know it was hard. I know all I ever did was study and work. And a few key memories of like, I guess the bad that Sarah was talking about, like my med error, my first Foley catheter.
Yep.
But you know what? I got through it, right?
Yeah. No, I'm right there with you. You remember, for me, I remember the one, I always had the clinical instructors that nobody wanted. Everybody was like, in every rotation, it was always like, oh, I hope you don't get so-and-so. They're a hard A, they really do this. And every single time. And every single time it ended up being a beautiful thing in some way, shape, or form, which I was so grateful for. But it was kind of those preconceived notions and rumors and all the things. And it just was, I don't know, those are the things you remember. But thank you for sharing those. Now let's quote unquote wrap up by combining what do you love most about nursing and nursing school as an instructor, along with your discussion on why you chose the 3 words, which, if you could remind everybody what the 3 words were, who may or may not have experienced a long gap of life between your first episode and now.
My 3 words were connections, calling, and creativity.
And they all start with K. That's so cool.
Isn't that weird? We've got a lot of spelling happening No,
we
between
have
you and
nursing
me
math and
here.
nursing spelling. It's all good. We're fine.
I love it. I love it. I could make it a 3-letter acronym. We really love those in nursing. So connections. This is both on a personal level and like that intellectual level. So I love to really get to know my students, and with my horrible memory, I do take notes about like what's going on in their life to help me remember. But I love making those connections with them and to be able to see them as not just a student, right? But who are they as a person? And on the other side of that connections word is I'm so in love with when my students get the why, is what I call it, right? They make this intellectual connection of, so I work in OB, right? Here's my example. So this patient is at risk for postpartum hemorrhage. Why? And for them to be able to pull this this out and be like, oh my gosh, yeah, she has this and this risk factor. Absolutely. Yes, that's what. Oh, 100%. And when they get to those connections on their own, it is the coolest thing in the entire world.
Yeah.
Not quite as cool as delivering a baby. The second coolest thing in the entire world. But yes, I love those connections, and wanting to be part of those moments is what forced my butt back to school. And I also think for me that calling is that I was also called to this, not just for selfish, like I want to, me, but I absolutely have felt called to education for a really long time. I've been a preceptor on my unit for, I don't even know how long. And I'm like, everyone that I work with knows, oh, Jen, she's always teaching. She's always got, well, what do you think? Right? Like, I don't want to give you the answer. I want to help you get to the answer on your own. And so this for me, just like motherhood, just like nursing, becoming an educator is absolutely a calling. And I feel like a lot of people come in, not everyone, but a lot of people come into nursing with that idea of, this is something I feel passionate about. I feel like I want to help people in this way. I'm called to it. It's not just a paycheck.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then this one, I was like, do I have another C? And I was like, stress. No.
Stress.
Stress. It doesn't start with a C.
We'll make it work.
But this idea of creativity. And I'm not like an artsy fartsy person. I don't have art skills like that. But this idea about, well, I was given advice that good enough is good enough. And I'm like, I don't think that it was very good advice, but it's not how I'm wired. And so
I was going to say, maybe more geared for a perfectionist specifically. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. In an attempt to combat that sort of thing. Yes.
Yes. But the creativity in always looking at what I'm teaching, is there a more fun way to teach this? And it's not, sometimes learning isn't fun. That's okay.
Yeah.
But how can I do this in a way that's going to be impactful for my students? How do I make it something that's like click, where they'll be thinking of their exam, they'll be taking their exam and they'll think, oh, I remember we did this in class. Oh, yes. Like, I want my courses that I teach to have that kind of creativity where my students are dreading walking in the door, that it's like, okay, what are we going to do today? Like, what crazy, wild idea, harebrained something is Jen thought of? And that if it doesn't work, that's okay too,
Yeah.
But that creativity of how do we make it work? How do we make it engaging?
Love it. Okay. Then let's close with the standard. Here we go. I did it in the first episode. I'm doing it in this one too. We'll start with the one you prepped for, and the one you didn't prep for we'll do last.
Okay. I'm ready.
So if there's only one takeaway that nursing student takes away from your episodes, plural, what would that be and why?
It would be to be brave and ask the questions. I had a sweet student who I had said this in a class and I didn't remember saying it, but it was what she needed to hear in this moment. And I had said, I'm reading off of a Post-it in my office right now because it was so impactful. I'm like, I can't forget this. That she said it back to me. Being brave is a choice, not a feeling. And she was like, I don't remember, she didn't even share what she was going through, but she goes, I needed to hear those words so much. I didn't even realize it. And it's such a, it's hard to be brave, and you can't be brave unless you are afraid, right?
Yeah.
Unless you're nervous or scared. It doesn't exist without that.
Yeah.
But ask the question, raise your hand in class, reach for that opportunity in clinical, send the email to the instructor, even though you don't get to control the outcome of any of these things, right?
Yeah.
I would hate to think that there's an instructor that's going to make you feel like an idiot for having the question. But you can't control other people.
I have to say, and I tell my patients all the time, and this is the exact same principle. I tell my patients, if you have a question about something, even if it's something we've talked about, ask me again. It's okay. And I say, if you've heard it before, or you know that you've heard it before, ask the question anyway. And I said, because here's the bottom line. If you have a nurse who is upset that you're asking them questions, that nurse needs to get another job. And I am going to go on the line of saying, same with instructors. If we're in there for you guys and you're asking a question, now maybe you've asked the question 7 or 8 times, but maybe there's some frustration on the side of the other person, but that's a different scenario. Don't be afraid to ask the question, because if you have an instructor that wants to belittle you or make you, this is the whole, this is why this exists,
yes.
So that we're not killing these careers before they even have a chance to start. Sorry, had to put my 2 cents worth in on your closing thing.
No, I love it. And I will just end with, like, when I read, students do like a self-evaluation, clinical, they do that a lot. How did you perform? What did you learn? How did you, these kinds of things. I see often this theme of, I wish I would have fill in the blank.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I would have asked for more opportunities at clinical. I wish I would have asked that question in class when it was like right in my brain, and then I forgot my question when I left, and I don't even remember what it was. Get rid of I wish, right?
Yeah.
Get rid of I wish. I had my personal physician once told me that I have to stop shoulding on myself. Like, I'm like, I should walk, I should do this, I should do that. He's like, no, it's what you do and what you don't do. There's no should. Stop shoulding on yourself. I try to remember that. But like get rid of the I wish, right?
Yeah.
Be brave. It's not a feeling. It's a choice. Be brave and just ask the questions. Keep asking questions.
And the words that come to my mind are missed opportunities, and in a different perspective than it ever has for me before. Like, you might only have that opportunity to ask that question in that moment, that once. Mm-hmm. And like you said, you walk away, you do the things, and then you've lost it. And you forget what it was, and you're kicking yourself over it. And and what are some of the hindrances to that, right? You've got students that don't want to ask the question because they don't want to be the moron. But I promise you, you have at least one other moron in the class with you. And I'm speaking as one myself. You have multiple morons alongside of you that are equally all thinking the same thing. And so I guarantee, short of maybe the question, how are babies made, there are no other questions that everybody else knows the answer to. I promise you. And probably not even that question, because some people think it's when you drink the water at work. That's what they say all the time. That's how my wife and I had so many kids. I kept drinking the water at work. Yeah, but I know the answer now, so it's from that. Anyway, sorry, Jen. So anything else you want to share on that note?
I don't think so. But what I do share in my classes often is that I can almost guarantee that if, like you said, if you have this question, somebody else does. And it's not always a reflection of your lack of knowledge.
Yeah.
Maybe I didn't do a good job explaining it.
There it is.
Maybe I need you to ask the question so I can do better in my role. Mm-hmm. And I love every once in a while, not every once in a while, a lot more often than I would have thought, a student will ask this question and it is a zinger. it is like, whoa, you just made this huge connection of two things we haven't talked about in 2 weeks and put them together.
Yeah.
Or like, does this mean that? And that is what is so fun and exciting about teaching, is my brain doesn't work the same as my students.
Yep.
Their brains don't all work the same as each other's. And
Yep.
so to be able to see them make those connections or ask this really, and I say sometimes, that's a great question. I have no idea.
Yeah.
Google it, right? I say GTS. Google that stuff. GTS and let us know.
Yeah.
Like, that is a great, I love that curiosity. Let's find out.
Preaching it. And I mean, and then there's also the aspect of the lost opportunity, like you just said, the lost opportunity for the person who's being asked. You know what I mean? Like now maybe there was something, like you said, that you teach or I teach or whoever teaches that didn't quite connect. How am I going to know that didn't connect with you unless you ask the question? And then when you do, that goes, oh, man, I got to remember that and you know what I mean? And we're humans. That's what makes us far superior to any sort of AI, robot, etc. We can build on that in these life experiences. And that's why nursing will never be replaced by robots. But that's a different topic for another time. So this whole episode has been all secretly about why nurses will never be replaced by robots. Okay, so Jen, the last question. If you had only one takeaway for your peers, both, I mean, there and across whoever hears this elsewhere, nursing instructors, lecturers, professors, etc., these disseminators / teachers of nursing students, if there was one takeaway for them, what would you want that to be?
My takeaway for the instructors.
Yes. Listen to the question. There it is. We figured it out. Okay, anyway.
See,
If,
I clarified, right?
Yeah.
I asked, right?
No, but it just made my connection that I was like actually joking about that. That was not a joke about Jen not listening to the question. That was my brain flipping the other question, the answer you had earlier. You know, it's like for the students, it's ask the question. So then I guess the answer for the instructors is listen to the question. Anyway, that almost looked really bad. Your turn.
No, not at all. I would say remember your why. Right? Why did you get into this?
Yeah.
Because of the pay? I assure you that's not why. But like, in life we get a little jaded, right? I've caught myself as a nurse, like, oh, I gotta check my thinking on that because I forgot to look at my patient, and I'm making assumptions, right? Oh, this, oh, that. And the same applies to being an educator, which I have not been for long, but on those days that are hard, on those days when things are frustrating and you're tapped out and you're like, ugh, go back and remember why. Why did you want to get into this?
Yeah.
And refreshing your perspective, I think is, it's really easy to lose when you get caught up in the lesson planning and the emails and the meetings and those kinds of things. It's all for them. It's all for the students. All of it.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much, Jen /Niffer / not Jenny / lecturer Evans for taking literally an hour and a half, almost 2 hours of your time on this beautiful morning.
My pleasure. Absolutely.
I cannot wait. Again, the streak continues. As soon as we hear it, as soon as I hear it, I want to throw it out there. Unedited, I don't care. Get the message out. But it's coming. It'll come. So anyway, in the meantime, thank you so much, Jen. I hope you have an amazing rest of your day.
You too, Eric. Thank you.
Thank you. Here's what's happening on the next episode of Feeding Our Young.
This is going to sound really strange, but I think it's probably a perspective that's people aren't super fond of these days, but I do think that having a level of anxiety and stress with each failure is helpful. And it sounds weird, but in a way, many of those steps I felt rock bottom. Granted, there's much worse rock bottoms in life in the big scheme of things, but when you feel failure, like you're anxious, you're alone, what do I do? And I think being anxious and feeling all that at that stage, it made me, get creative and like, what do I do next? What do I look for next? How do I succeed? What do I do here? And I think that anxiety in a way was helpful. Even though sometimes anxiety can be incredibly debilitating and awful.
Yeah.
But for me, I think it was a tool in a way. I turned it into a tool versus a shortcoming.
Did you like today's episode of Feeding Our Young? Let today's honored guests know by emailing us at thanks@feedingouryoung.org. Also, if you are a nursing student, nurse, or a nursing instructor and would like to be featured on a future episode, please email us a few details about yourself at the very special email address mystory@feedingouryoung.org. If you have a question you would like addressed in a future Q&A episode, please send it to q@feedingouryoung.org. For all other inquiries, please email us at info@feedingouryoung.org or text us at area code 509-255-8436. We're so excited to have you return to hear our next honored guest. Be sure to follow us on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Feeding Our Young LLC. Again, that's username Feeding Our Young LLC. Until next time, be encouraged and go find someone to encourage today.